Welcome to Console Confessions, the only channel where pixel-perfect gameplay meets real-world revenge, one malicious compliance at a time. Whether you're grinding XP or just chilling with your favorite RPG, relax while we dive into stories, where the rules did get followed, just not how they expected. If you love power moves, petty payback, and that sweet taste of technicality-driven justice, you're in the right place. Hit that like button and subscribe for more chaos while we boot up today's confession.
My first job was at this 50s-style diner burger joint when I was about 16. It was actually a pretty sweet gig. The co-workers were nice, the vibe was chill, and the food was greasy perfection. Now most of the customers were decent. Some weird, but decent. We even had this one homeless guy who came in weekly just to take on our food challenge. Always one cool dude. Anyway, here's the story. It was a packed lunch rush. I'm talking bar stools full, every table taken. In walks a classic nuclear family. Dad, mom, 2 kids. I head over, pad in hand, and take their order. I get to the dad, and he says, "I'll have a burger." So I ask, "What would you like on that burger?" He goes, "Everything." Now, we had a lot of options. I gesture to the menu, like, "Hey, here's the toppings list," thinking maybe he doesn't realize. He glances at it for about a second and repeats, louder this time, "Everything." We're talking chili, slaw, onions, mayo, grilled jalapenos, mushrooms, 4 kinds of cheese. Like this thing was going to be an edible skyscraper, I ask again. "Are you sure? Try listing some toppings." Even his wife tries to step in, but he cuts me off, shouting, "Everything!" Okay then. I write out every single topping we had. The ticket is packed with tiny acronyms just to make it all fit. Even the line cooks pause and look at me like, "You serious?" I give them the nod. And let me tell you, when I walked that beast of a burger to his table, it was dripping. 2 pounds of greasy chaos, stacked high and barely held together by the bun. The dad? Not amused. Called over my manager and absolutely went off. Manager pulls me aside, all fired up. "You know you're supposed to ask what they want on their burger, right?" I explain. Calmly. "Just tell him what happened." His face changes. The smirk starts. Grabs a menu and walks me right back to the table. "Sir," he says, laying the menu down, "you asked for everything. This is everything." Silence. Then the dad quietly places a new order, something way more basic, and waits for his burger while the rest of the family is finishing up. And the best part? We didn't even rush his new burger. Because, hey, we had other customers who actually knew what they wanted.
The company I was working for had a fair number of people that traveled almost exclusively, so while it was a fairly small company at maybe 100 people on staff, across everyone I'd guess we would have about 12,000–15,000 nights in a hotel and over 1 million flight miles per year. That worked out quite well for everyone because they racked up a lot of rewards with hotels and airlines, so their vacations ended up costing them basically nothing. In addition to that, the company's policy was that you booked and paid for all your travel, and then submitted a request to get reimbursed, so quite a lot of people were also getting insane rewards from their credit card companies as well. It was considered a perk of the job, even to the point that HR would mention it when recruiting people, and it helped people put up with some of the other BS policies they didn't like. Enter new controller. Let's call her Karen. Karen decides that the company is losing money and implements a new reimbursement system where everyone gets company cards that they use, so the company gets all the CC rewards. On top of this, they also partner with a travel agency that everyone has to use to book their flights, hotels, and rental cars. The idea is that since all the money bookings are now in the company's name, the company gets to keep all the rewards. This is all great for the company, but it sucks for all the employees because this had formerly been one of the top perks. It's like each employee got a several $1,000 pay decrease. Cue Malicious Compliance. Expect our CEO was like a lot of CEOs in that he had an assistant that booked all of his travel and just sent him an itinerary so he knew what flight to get on, where to pick up his rental, and what hotel to check into. Similarly, when things don't go his way, he's not one for wanting the details, he just wants it fixed ASAP. So the admin assistant started following the procedures to the letter. CEO ends up getting stuck with shitbox cars, crappy hotel rooms, and stuck in coach class because the system either has limits on what choices can be made or wants to use reward points to book, and you can't use those type of rewards for the flights, hotels, arts, etc. that he's used to. Additionally, when he'd run into problems, he'd call his assistant and she'd tell him she would have to call the travel agent to see what's wrong, and this would invariably occur outside business hours, so it'd take a day to get an answer. If memory serves, that policy change lasted all of 30 days before the CEO walked into the controller's office, told her it was for shit, and directed that everything should be put back exactly the way that it was. After that, I know of at least a handful of people that ended up taking the CEO's assistant out for dinner, drinks, as a thank you for helping to get things back to normal.
So I was about 16 or 17 at the time, and like most teens, I really wanted to go to this big party all my friends were hyped about. There was just one problem. My dad. Now, to me, he was super strict. While all my friends had no curfew or at least a super late one, I was stuck negotiating like a hostage negotiator just to get a few extra minutes. Seriously, he once told me to be home by 10 for a movie that starts at 8. But on this particular night, I was determined. I begged, reasoned, made my case, and finally he caved a little. Damn, that's the latest, not a minute more. Ugh. The party was at least a 30-minute bike ride away, and most of my friends had until 3 a.m. I was staring at a serious case of FOMO. Then it hit me. It was the last Saturday of October, which in most of Europe means the end of daylight savings time. At 3 a.m., the clocks rolled back to 2 a.m. I didn't say a word, just smiled and nodded. So that night, I skipped the bike ride and got a lift from a friend. I made sure to stay until exactly 3 a.m., which was technically 2 a.m. all over again. I walked into the house, nice and quiet. Seconds later, my dad storms out, red in the face, demanding to know why I was an hour late. I just pointed to his radio-controlled clock and calmly said, "It's 2 a.m. The silence that followed was beautiful. You could see the gears turning. He knew I was technically right, but he hated it. His eyes were this perfect mix of defeat and pure frustration. He sent me to bed without another word, and I obeyed. Cause I knew I was also very, very wrong, but hey, sometimes malicious compliance hits just right. And that night, total victory.
So, we get this new manager. She walks in like a storm in business casual, all loud and proud, throwing around words like structure and consistency. First thing she does, kills work from home. Flex hours, gone. Swapping PTO, forget. I asked to move 2 days, just 2, for my cousin's wedding. She looks at me, stone-faced, and goes, "Sorry, we can't make exceptions to anyone. It wouldn't be fair." All right then. So I submit a request for all 23 of my unused PTO days, straight through the end of the quarter. No coverage, no backup, just me, vanishing into the sunset. It gets approved in like 10 minutes? Cool. Couple days later, she's in panic mode. "Wait, who's handling your workload?" And I'm like, "Dunno. I assumed you had a plan. No exceptions, right?" She ends up covering for me, and it's a disaster. Stuff piles up. Clients are furious. 2 people quit. I come back to a brand new HR memo. Managers can now approve flexible PTO on a case-by-case basis. Looks like fair hits. Different when you're the one getting screwed.
Over a decade ago, I came home to find I was being moved out by my wife. We weren't in a great place, but I was blindsided. I was also served with a protection order that stated I could not come home without prior written permission I had to go through my wife to see the kids, etc., and it was in effect for 90 days. I was devastated. A relative connected me with a bulldog of a lawyer. This lady was brilliant and no nonsense. She filed a rebuttal to the protection order, but told me these things take time, and we were unlikely to see a judge before the 90 days were up. She was very clear that I must follow the court order to the letter. If there was any evidence otherwise, I'd be in an uphill battle when my wife renewed it. It only took 1 day before my now ex needed me to take the kids. I had crashed at a friend's house, so I had no place to take them. So we agreed I'd watch them at home. I waited a few blocks away while waiting for an email. Ex called me, and I reminded her of the details of the order and that I wouldn't come until I had permission. This happened twice more that I waited down the street within the first week. So I told her I wouldn't leave where I was staying until I had the email. It was about 20 minutes away. I texted her to remind her. The very next day, she again did an email. We were planning on me picking up the kids to take them to school since their school was only a few minutes from my work. However, because I had not received written permission, I ran out of time to drive to pick up the kids and then make it to their school and work. She called furious that I wasn't there. I reminded her about the permission and that I was out of time. She ended up being very late to work that day. She then wanted to write me blanket permission to come and go as needed, but my lawyer advised against it. Follow the order. The culmination of this was a few weeks later when she again forgot to send permission. Her boyfriend was staying over, but didn't have his car with him. They both had to get to work, and that was the day I learned that he was her direct supervisor. X had to call a friend from work to pick up kids and take them to school, and the friend found out. Of course it got out at their work. Within a week of that, the boyfriend was fired over their relationship, and my ex was suspended. By this time, I had my own place, so the kids ended up staying with me most days. I later learned that the protection order was the boyfriend's idea. X was quite mad about it as it turned into evidence that I wasn't a threat to her or the family, and the judge was quite harsh with her over it when we settled for support and parenting time. She called it intentional and harmful parental alienation.
This past year was one of the hardest my family's ever faced. My husband went from earning 6 figures and fully supporting us, while we saved my income, to being unemployed for 8 months. Meanwhile, I work in political campaigning, which is already unstable by nature. I move from race to race, depending on who wins. Thankfully, I'd built a solid reputation and caught a break. I landed a job as a campaign manager on a statewide race. At just 24, I was the youngest person in 2 decades to run a race like that in my state. We ended up losing that race by just 200 votes. Devastating, but it also put me on the map. Afterward, job offers poured in. But the timing was tricky. I had just bought a house and wasn't interested in relocating, and most of the high-level positions were already filled. Eventually, I took a local CM role. The salary was lower, but it meant no moving. I didn't realize I was walking into a mess. My new boss? Let's just say she had a superiority complex. Early on, she told me that real women have natural births and breastfeed. I'd go on to do neither, and those comments wrecked me emotionally. But I kept my head down. The campaign was bare bones, literally just her when I joined. I built the entire operation, hired staff, a fundraiser, consultants, everything. I also found out I was pregnant. Then I got in a bad car accident that injured my back. The baby was okay, but I was in pain with few treatment options. Luckily, my job could mostly be done from home. I got the team in sync, running smoothly, even though I didn't agree with about 90% of the campaign's messaging. Then her husband got deployed overseas, and she just shut down. No fundraising, no events, nothing. We lost a staffer during that time, and nobody wanted to push her too hard. We were trying to be human. When he returned, I kicked everything back into gear, but I noticed a shift. One day, she made a weird comment. Told me she made the same salary as a teacher 20 years ago. I live in a DC suburb, have multiple degrees, and get no benefits in this job. Not exactly the same. A few weeks later, I told her I needed to cut back on field work like door knocking because of my back. Normally, CMs don't do that anyway. We planned to hire someone else, but without fundraising, we couldn't afford it. She didn't like that the work fell back on her. Then we had a team call where I pushed her to step up, and she exploded. Yelled at me, said my pregnancy wasn't her problem, blamed me for everything, and hung up on the whole team. That's when I decided to stop going above and beyond. I scaled back to just my job duties. She didn't like that either. Eventually, she gave me an ultimatum: work for minimum wage or find another job. What she didn't know? That same day, my husband got a job offer. I told her I'd serve out my 30-day notice, per my contract, and then I was done. She flipped, screamed, that she wouldn't pay me another dime, claimed I was a bad employee. I calmly reminded her she was already a month behind on pay, and she legally owed me that 30-day notice money regardless. She never formalized my termination, so I sent her a letter summarizing it all in writing. Her response? A nasty email saying, I wouldn't be paid, and criticizing me for not wearing makeup. So I forwarded her email to the rest of the team. They all quit. She lost everyone in 5 minutes. Then, a friend offered me my dream job. Suddenly, I was winning. But here's where it gets wild. Turns out, I never got her to sign the contract that guaranteed my severance. I thought I was screwed. But she, in a rage, sent that signed contract to a consultant asking for dirt on me to justify not paying me. He didn't take the bait, and boom, there it was. The signed contract, so I got a lawyer. She started begging me for my work product, but I'm an independent contractor. She gets the goods when I get the check. I told her to talk to my lawyer. She kept slandering me, calling people, even tried to get friends to pressure me. My answer was always the same. Talk to my lawyer. Then she fired the consultant for refusing to lie for her. And guess what? He was now free of his obligations, and he told me her own lawyer told her to pay me. She was out of money, out of allies, and out of time. At 11 p.m., she emailed me saying she'd pay. I ignored it. I didn't work for her anymore. When I woke up, I had 20 texts and 5 missed calls. I told her I'd respond after talking to my lawyer. That's when she went nuclear. She called the police and accused me of embezzling campaign funds. I had to explain the whole thing to the officer, showed him that the money was literally still in her account. She just didn't know how to access it because I'd always done it for her. The cop basically told her she was nuts and then informed her that she was committing a crime by not paying me. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said, if she refuses to pay, yes. 2 days later, I had a check in the mail. And the best part? Because of her stunt, my 30-day notice pay ended up being more than if I had taken her reduced offer. I made an extra $700 and didn't have to work another minute for her. She lost her election by 15 points. In a swing district, I left political campaigns after that. I don't miss it. I never loved the work, and it's rare to find a campaign that isn't morally questionable. But I had bills to pay. And now, I have peace. So yeah, don't mess with a pregnant campaign manager with a paper trail.
Years ago, I lived in a trailer park. Well, officially, a manufactured home community. They were nice enough, but let's be honest, still trailers. That summer, I inherited my dad's little fishing boat. It fit perfectly in my driveway. Didn't stick out, didn't block anything, just sat there, minding its own business. Then the office tells me, you can't keep your boat in the driveway. I check my lease, no mention of it. So I say, where's this rule coming from? They reply, oh, the rule just changed this year. It'll be in your next lease. Ah, of course. So I ask, where exactly am I supposed to park it? They tell me there's a community lot at the end of the block, free to use, where all the trailers and boats are supposed to go. All right, I'll play along. Saturday rolls around, I get my gear together and head to the lot. And guess what? The gates. Locked. I march back to the office. Hey, nobody mentioned the gate was locked hand. I don't have a key. The answer? Residents don't get keys to the gate. So let me get this straight. You're requiring me to keep my boat there, but I can't access it on my own. Just call the maintenance guy. He'll come open it up for you. I try to reason with her. Wouldn't it make way more sense to give each resident a key? I'll even make my own copy. At my expense, you can keep track of who has them. Even charge us a fee if we lose it. Sorry, sir. Security reasons. If there are too many keys, someone might steal your boat, right? Because that's totally safer than just parking it in my own locked driveway. But I smile and say, you're right. I wasn't thinking clearly. Can I get the maintenance guy's number? She gives it to me. I check the forecast. Sunday is perfect warm, sunny.com. Ideal fishing weather. So I set my alarm, get up at 5 in the morning, pack my truck, and head over to the lot. Then I call the maintenance guy. He picks up, half asleep. Hello? In the most cheerful voice I can manage. Good morning. I was told I need to call you to get my trailer out of the lot. He groans. It's like 5 in the morning, I say. Yeah, I've got stuff to do today. Gotta get an early start. He sighs. Give me 5 minutes. About 10 minutes. Later, he pulls up visibly annoyed. I smile. Good morning. He unlocks the gate. You need your trailer to move something. Oh, no, my boat's on it. I'm going fishing. That couldn't wait till a decent hour. Nope, my life doesn't revolve around your sleep schedule. Of course, if I had my own key, you wouldn't need to be here at all. And off I went. Had a great day on the water. When I came back later, the gate was open, unlocked, and I never saw a lock on it again.
It became apparent to me last week that my roommates were trying to drive me out of the house to get one of their boyfriends in on my lease. When I told them I wanted to stay, they started staging incidents and messes around the house so they could yell at me for them, and it all came to a head when they called a meeting with me 2 days ago. One of them had to hold the other back as she screamed at me that she hated me, and I was not welcome in the building. They proceeded to tell me that I contributed nothing to the house and wasted their space, and that they had gotten in with the landlady and convinced her to not renew my lease in June. I told them I'd talk to the landlady, and when they said they were the heads of the house, I laughed and went on with my day. I spoke to the landlady, and she acknowledged that they were out of hand, and while she had given them the power to not renew my lease, she also said I could move out whenever, and not pay for a single day I wasn't there. So, yesterday when my roommates both left to visit family, they are sisters, I immediately called everyone I knew and vacated the house of everything I owned. I took the curtains, the rugs, all the cat toys, and even the cat tower that I had made with my mom. I took all of their things off my shelves and other furniture and stacked them in the middle of the now nearly empty living room. I snapped pictures of everything, handed the keys to the landlady, and immediately fucked off. They won't be back to the house until tomorrow. I've blocked them on everything so I won't get any angry messages, but I'm sure their faces will be priceless when they come home to a half-empty house with hundreds of dollars in storage and furniture gone. So much for me not contributing anything to the house. Now I actually don't. They also have to find someone else to take up the lease. Till boyfriend can move in when June comes around, or they have to pick up my rent. Feels pretty good.
Flashback to around 2014. I just moved into a 2-floor apartment across from my future in-laws. Nice place. Terrible neighbors downstairs. They blasted music at all hours. Never cut the grass. Skipped trash duty. But they left me alone, and I could sleep through anything. So it was whatever, until the girlfriend moved in. Now it's screaming matches. They crank the music louder when I ask them to turn it down. And if I walk across the floor, broom to the ceiling. Still, I managed. But then my wife moved in, and she's the opposite of a heavy sleeper. She needed blackout curtains taped to the wall, fan at the perfect angle. Total silence. She started escaping to her parents' house just to get peace. I talked to the guy again. He went from, yeah man, cool to, it's our house, go Effie. Yourself, move out if you don't like it. Charming. Then his girlfriend got pregnant. Then the baby came, and I decided it was time to fight back. I remembered the laws. No noise complaints unless it's after 11 p.m. So I brought in the beast. One of my dad's massive concert speakers. 5 feet tall, black leather, pro grade. I laid it face down on the floor. Replaced the coffee table. Prepared the most cursed audio playlist ever made. I played it when I left for work. My wife went to her parents. I came back late, smiling. They lasted 3 days. Day 2? A pile of manure on my doorstep. Didn't faze me. I hit them with blasting. Sine waves, the Captain Planet theme song, marching bands, preacher sermons, the chicken dance, their ceiling became my subwoofer. Finally, I got a text. Sorry, man. You can stop now, did I? Nope. He needed a few more days to soak it in. They called the cops. They called the landlord. But I wasn't breaking any rules. Just being annoying. Legally. After that, silence. They tried now and then, but I trained my wife to unleash the beast. Eventually they learned. And when we moved out, they were so happy to see us go.
Thanks for tuning into Console Confessions. If you enjoyed this blend of gameplay and petty revenge, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a story. Got your own tale of malicious compliance? Drop it in the comments. We might feature it in a future video. Until next time. Keep gaming, keep scheming, and keep those confessions coming. See you in the next upload.